All the pastry chefs laughed at the poor bakery assistant because of her recipe with 3 simple eggs. Then the Billionaire restaurant owner shocked everyone with his announcement. Before we begin this tale, drop a comment telling us which country you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Let's dive in. 3 minutes until we go live. The director's voice crackled through the headsets so loudly that the crew winced. Backstage at MasterChef Arena had become chaos. The star contestant of the season had just collapsed and was rushing to the emergency room. The challenge? The show was about to start, and they were now missing a competitor. The production coordinator, papers trembling in her grip, let out a panicked gasp. Dear God, what do we do now? Who can replace him? We have 0 time to locate another chef. That's when a confident, unexpected voice rang out from down the corridor. I'll step in. Everyone spun around simultaneously. Standing there was Maya Chen, the bakery assistant from the show's partner cafe. You're from the prep kitchen, correct? Stammered a production intern. Assistant baker, yes, but I also create pastries, Maya declared firmly. If nobody else is available, I can do this. Just give me one opportunity. The coordinator let out a nervous chuckle. An assistant baker? You must be kidding. Behind the scenes, some contestants shared glances and snickered quietly. One of them, clearly irritated by the situation, scoffed. What's she planning to make? Frosted soap bubbles. But Maya stood her ground. Let me prove myself. I have 4 minutes, right? I only need basic supplies. I'll show you what I can do. If it fails, you can edit me out. No complications. This is broadcast suicide, the director yelled. It's better than going on air with an empty station. Isn't it? Maya fired back. Worse than a failed dish is no show at all. The stage manager glanced at the countdown timer. 28 seconds. She looked at the director, then the host, then the desperate crew. Time had run out. If this goes wrong, you're responsible, she warned, pointing directly at Maya. I'm already used to getting messy, Maya replied with a sarcastic grin. The director, having no alternative, nodded reluctantly. Get her ready. Wardrobe. Makeup. Now. Maya was swept away by 2 assistants like a whirlwind. They threw a fresh apron over her old one, clipped a microphone to her belt, and sprayed setting powder on her face without asking. She was pushed onto the stage, her heartbeat drowning out the show's opening music. From the judges' panel, Alexander Morrison observed intently. Billionaire owner of the largest bakery empire in Seattle, he was the most intimidating judge on the program and the most enigmatic. While everyone whispered about the embarrassment of putting a bakery assistant on stage, he remained quiet, eyes locked on Maya with a subtle grin on his face. The host, nervous and bewildered, gripped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, we are broadcasting live nationwide with Season 4 of MasterChef Arena directly from Seattle. The crowd cheered. Tonight we'll witness incredible creations, thrilling challenges, and a surprise contestant. He glanced down at his cue card, then at Maya, who tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, trying to appear composed. And our final competitor is, he swallowed nervously, a bakery assistant. The audience erupted in murmurs. The camera zoomed in on Maya. Her expression was serene, but her eyes revealed she knew exactly what she was capable of. Chef Bradley, one of the contestants and owner of an upscale patisserie, laughed loudly, shaking his head dismissively. This should be entertaining. And while the audience assessed Maya with skeptical looks, she approached the makeshift kitchen on stage as if walking toward her destiny. Contestants, you have precisely 60 minutes to create an innovative breakfast pastry, announced the host, raising his hand dramatically. The timer begins. Now! A thunderous noise filled the studio. Equipment clanging, mixers whirring, ovens heating up. The professional chefs sprinted like marathon runners toward their premium stations overflowing with luxury ingredients: Belgian chocolate, Madagascar vanilla, artisan flowers, exotic fruits. Maya remained still for 3 seconds, observing the pandemonium around her. "Hey, assistant!" shouted Chef Bradley, brandishing an expensive truffle. "You planning to stand there like a mannequin?" Maya smiled and waved at him as if greeting a neighbor. "I'm just watching where you all aren't looking," she responded calmly, walking in the opposite direction. While everyone else battled over the premium ingredients, Maya headed straight to the basic pantry. There she discovered everything others ignored. Regular eggs, butter, flour, sugar, vanilla extract. She selected exactly 3 large eggs and cradled them in her apron as if they were precious gems. 3 eggs. One of the contestants laughed. "What are you creating, cafeteria scrambled eggs?" "No," Maya answered without glancing at him. "I'm making something you've never experienced before." The nearest camera focused on her face. Maya winked at it with the confidence of someone sharing a secret joke. Backstage, the production coordinator was gnawing her fingernails. "Is she seriously doing this? With eggs? My goodness. This will be a viral disaster by morning. This is going to be catastrophic." "Calm down," said the director, eyes glued to the screen. "Let her create. Sometimes the unexpected makes excellent television." Back in the arena, Maya had transformed her station into a graceful performance. She cracked the eggs with precise movements, separated them flawlessly, whipped the whites into perfect peaks while incorporating flour and sugar with techniques nobody had even noticed. Chef Bradley, preparing an elaborate chocolate soufflé with champagne, made sure to walk past her station. "Interesting aroma," he said mockingly. "Is that vanilla essence or did something burn?" Maya continued working without pause. "That's the scent of victory approaching, sweetheart. You must be detecting it for the first time in your career." Some production assistants who overheard struggled to suppress their laughter. Bradley turned crimson and returned to his counter, grumbling something about unprofessional behavior. Time was ticking, and the difference was remarkable. While the other chefs layered expensive components and complex methods, Maya did something entirely different. She worked peacefully, smiling as if she were baking at home for her family. She folded the eggs into a delicate batter, poured it into individual molds, and placed them in the oven with the timing of a master. Simple technique, but executed with stunning precision. 15 minutes, the host announced. Panic spread among some contestants. One was visibly stressed, dropping utensils. Another whispered recipes under his breath like a prayer. Maya stayed calm, preparing a light glaze for her pastries. "How can you be so relaxed?" the contestant beside her asked, perspiring nervously. "Because I know I gave my best effort," Maya said, wiping her hands on her apron. "And also because eggs have never failed me." The woman laughed anxiously. "You're truly unique, aren't you?" "I'm simply being myself. And perhaps you should be yourself too, instead of trying to copy everyone else." "Time!" the host shouted. Everyone stopped immediately. Some chefs still attempted last-second adjustments, but the assistants were already collecting plates. Maya stepped back and examined her creation. 3 eggs transformed into something that belonged in a luxury hotel, yet carried the essence of home baking. "Looks like our surprise is complete," Chef Bradley said, eyeing Maya's plate with contempt. "Well, at least it's original." "Thank you," Maya replied, giving an exaggerated curtsy. "Coming from you, that's practically a standing ovation." The judges began evaluating the dishes. Alexander Morrison remained silent, studying every movement, every reaction from the others. The first dish sampled was Bradley's, chocolate soufflé with champagne and vanilla cream. The judges nodded approvingly. "Flawless execution, sophisticated presentation," the head judge remarked. Bradley smiled smugly and glanced sideways at Maya. Next, they tried the other creations. Polite observations, some helpful feedback, nothing that captured much attention, until they reached Maya's plate. The first judge lifted a fork, cut into the golden pastry, and took a bite. He chewed slowly, paused, chewed again. His eyes widened. "Hold on," he said softly. He took another piece. This time, he combined it with the delicate glaze Maya had crafted as accompaniment. His expression transformed completely. "Wait, who created this?" he asked, looking directly at Maya. The entire studio fell silent. Even the audience stopped murmuring. Maya raised her hand tentatively. I apologize if it's not satisfactory. Not satisfactory? The judge said, still chewing. It's phenomenal. The second judge, curious now, tasted it as well. Her eyes went wide. Amazing, this is… How did you achieve this texture? She asked. It's just eggs, Maya replied, shrugging. Quality eggs, properly treated with attention. Alexander Morrison, who had remained quiet until then, requested a taste. He cut a generous portion, inhaled the aroma first, then took a bite. He chewed thoughtfully. Maya held her breath. Alexander closed his eyes for a long moment, then opened them and stared directly at her. Where did you learn to bake? He asked, his voice revealing genuine amazement. From my grandmother, Maya answered. She always said the finest pastries aren't the most expensive. They're the ones made with purpose. Chef Bradley, witnessing the judge's reaction, began to look visibly uneasy. With all respect, he interrupted. But these are just eggs. Anyone can do this. Maya turned to him with a sweet smile. Then why didn't you? The audience let out a collective gasp. Alexander Morrison nearly choked, trying to hide his laughter. The host, sensing the tension and renewed audience interest, stepped closer. Well, it appears our surprise contestant really has surprised the judges, he said, facing the cameras. Who would have imagined 3 simple eggs could create such impact? The silence in the studio was so complete you could hear the cameras humming. Alexander Morrison was still holding his fork, as if trying to comprehend what he had just tasted. Suddenly, he rose from the judge's table and began walking toward Maya. The production team quietly panicked, uncertain what was happening. Alexander stopped directly in front of Maya, who was nervously adjusting her apron for the 6th time. Who are you really? Alexander asked with an intensity that made the audience hold their breath. And why in the world are you working as an assistant instead of leading your own kitchen? Maya blinked several times, as if questioning whether this was reality or if she had fainted from stress. Well, she began, looking around at all the cameras pointed at her. I'm Maya Chen. I'm 26. I live in a studio apartment I share with 2 mice who actually pay rent in crumbs. The audience chuckled. And I'm working as an assistant because nobody has offered me a real chance. Until today, she finished, shrugging as if it were perfectly obvious. Alexander remained silent for a moment, simply watching her. Maya began to feel uncomfortable under his intense gaze. Are you okay, sir? She asked, tilting her head. You look like you've swallowed a live fish, or maybe an entire chocolate truffle. More laughter from the audience. Alexander shook his head as if emerging from a trance. Maya Chen, he repeated her name slowly. Do you have plans after leaving here tonight? Well, I need to return to mixing more batter, she replied. And then watch cooking show reruns on my couch that creaks louder than a haunted house door. Not anymore, Alexander said, his tone suddenly very serious. Not anymore, Alexander said, his tone suddenly very serious. The host stepped closer, trying to understand what was happening. Mr. Morrison. Alexander ignored him completely. Maya Chen, he said louder now so the entire audience could hear. I would like to make you a proposal here now, live on television. The entire studio held its breath. Maya swallowed hard. What kind of proposal? She asked nervously. Because if it involves selling baking equipment, I already told you I'm terrible at sales. Alexander smiled for the first time since tasting her dish. I want you to become head pastry chef at my new flagship bakery. The silence that followed was deafening. Then chaos erupted. The audience screamed as if they were at a concert. Some people jumped from their seats. Cameras rushed to capture every possible reaction. My goodness! The host shouted into the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just witnessed something completely unprecedented on MasterChef Arena. Maya stood frozen, her mouth slightly agape, staring at Alexander as if he had just spoken in an alien language. Sorry, could you repeat that? She asked, cupping her ear. I think I misheard with all the noise. You heard correctly, Alexander said, smiling. Head pastry chef? New bakery? You and my team? What do you say? Maya looked at the screaming audience. The other contestants rendered speechless, and all the cameras focused on her. I, she stammered. Take your time, Alexander said. You don't need to answer immediately. Good thing, Maya replied, wiping her forehead. Because my brain sort of crashed the moment you said head chef. It's like someone unplugged my thoughts. The audience laughed even harder. That's when Chef Bradley, who had been in shock until that moment, suddenly jumped from his station. One moment! He shouted so loud even the audience stopped making noise. Everyone turned to look at him. Bradley was red with fury, pointing his finger at Maya. She copied my technique, he yelled, storming towards center stage. This is plagiarism. The studio went silent again. Maya blinked several times, then let out a genuine laugh. Your technique? She asked, pointing at the 3 eggs on her plate. Do you own a patent on separating eggs? Don't get clever with me, Bradley shouted. I saw you observing my station before the show began. Sweetheart, Maya said with the patience of someone explaining something to a stubborn toddler. I didn't even know you existed before today. And besides, if you have a secret technique for eggs, maybe you should share it with the culinary world. I know it's hard to believe. I'm still trying to understand how I got this far myself. But I swear on my grandmother's memory that I didn't do anything wrong. Anyone can say that, Bradley muttered. True, Maya agreed. Anyone can say anything, like you saying you have talent for baking. The host, seeing the situation spiraling out of control, decided to intervene. Well, folks, I think we're going to have to investigate these claims before we... There's no need to investigate anything, Alexander interrupted, finally speaking up, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. I've been watching her from the moment she stepped on stage. I saw every move, and I can assure you there was nothing improper. Bradley turned to Alexander, eyes blazing. You're defending her because you made that ridiculous offer in front of everyone. Now you can't take it back. Alexander took a step toward Bradley, and everyone could feel the tension. Watch how you speak to me, Alexander said with dangerous calm. But the damage was already done. Doubt had been planted. Phone cameras in the audience started recording. People whispered to each other, and Maya could feel the weight of judgmental stares. All right, she said, raising her hands. I think I should leave. Clearly my presence here is causing more confusion than joy. Maya, wait, Alexander called. No, really, it's fine, she answered, already untying her apron. It was fun while it lasted. Thank you for the experience. And just like that, Maya Chen walked off stage, leaving behind a studio in turmoil and a billionaire who, for the first time in years, didn't know exactly what to do. The next day, Maya was back at her usual spot, the prep station at Morrison's Artisan Bakery, mixing dough as if nothing had happened. Except everything had happened. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Reporters, curious strangers, people offering outrageous contracts. She turned it off and tucked it away in her locker. At least the dough doesn't judge me, she murmured to herself, kneading a particularly stubborn batch. She was so focused on her work that she didn't notice when someone walked into the kitchen. Excuse me, said a familiar voice. Maya turned and nearly dropped the mixing bowl. There was Alexander Morrison himself, standing in the middle of the small prep kitchen, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her annual salary. What are you doing here? Maya asked, glancing around to see if anyone else had noticed his presence. I came to talk to you, Alexander answered simply. If this is to apologize for yesterday's chaos, don't bother. I'm over it already. I mean, it's been almost 24 hours. Practically ancient history, she said, going back to kneading the dough with more force than necessary. Alexander watched her work for a moment. You're not going to ask about the offer? He said. What offer? Maya asked without looking at him. The one you made in front of millions of people and then had to swallow because of the scandal? That offer. The offer still stands. Maya stopped kneading and slowly turned toward him. I'm sorry, what? Alexander stepped closer. The head chef position. The flagship bakery. Everything I said yesterday. It still stands. Maya let out a disbelieving laugh. Alexander, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm pretty much persona non grata in the baking world right now. Bradley practically accused me of being some kind of culinary spy. Bradley's an idiot, Alexander said as casually as if he were commenting on the weather. Maybe so, but a lot of people believed him. Alexander crossed his arms and looked straight into her eyes. I didn't believe him. Maya held his gaze for a long moment, trying to read something in his expression. Why are you doing this? She finally asked. Because last night, I tasted the best pastry I've had in 20 years of my career, Alexander answered. And because I know how to recognize talent when I see it. Maya shook her head. This is insane. Probably, Alexander agreed. But sometimes the best decisions are the insane ones. He extended his hand to her. Come with me, he said with a smile she hadn't seen before. I believe in you. Maya looked at Alexander's outstretched hand for so long that he started to wonder if she had fallen into some kind of trance. Are you all right? He asked, giving his hand a small wave. I'm just trying to calculate how much dough I'd have to need to make what you probably spend on ties each month, she replied, still staring at his hand. Alexander laughed. A lot of dough. Like a lot as in many batches, or a lot as in I'll need several lifetimes? Several lifetimes, he confirmed dramatically. Fine, you convinced me, but I have one condition. What is it? I do everything my way, she said, crossing her arms. No turning me into the female version of Bradley. If you want my talent, you have to accept my personality too. Alexander extended his hand again. Deal. Maya shook his hand and made a face. Wow. You have really soft hands for someone in the food business. I don't bake anymore, Alexander replied. I only manage. Oh, you're one of those bakers who became a desk executive, Maya said, shaking her head. How tragic. It's like a bird that forgot how to fly. Maybe you'll remind me how to fly again. Maya looked at him with genuine surprise. Wow, that was almost poetic. Did you rehearse that line in the mirror? A week later, Maya was standing at the entrance of Alexander's new flagship bakery kitchen, taking in what would now be her workplace. It was breathtaking. State-of-the-art equipment, marble surfaces, tools that probably cost more than her car. My goodness, she whispered. This looks like the International Space Station, but for pastries. Do you like it? Alexander asked, appearing beside her. It's beautiful, Maya replied, but also a little intimidating. Like, I'm afraid of touching something and breaking it. You're the head chef now. You can break whatever you want. Perfect, because I'm famous for breaking things, she said, walking toward the center of the kitchen. That's when she realized she wasn't alone. There were at least 12 employees in the kitchen, all standing still, all staring at her. Hi, everyone, Maya waved cheerfully. I'm Maya, the former assistant who caused all that fuss on TV. The silence that followed was so awkward Maya could practically hear it. Tough crowd, she muttered to Alexander. One of the bakers, a tall, thin man with a stern expression, stepped forward. So you're the famous Maya Chen, he said in a tone that made it clear famous wasn't exactly a compliment. In the flesh, Maya answered, giving a small bow. And you are David Thompson, senior baker for 12 years. 12 years, Maya exclaimed. Wow, you must have seen everything. I have, including plenty of people who think one TV appearance makes them pastry chefs. Maya blinked a few times. Wow, you got straight to the point, didn't you? No small talk. No pleasantries. I appreciate it. It's refreshing. David looked surprised by her reaction. Look, David, Maya continued, walking right up to him. I know you all must be thinking, who's this crazy woman who showed up out of nowhere and now wants to run our kitchen? And you're absolutely right to think that. The other employees exchanged glances. But here's the truth, Maya said, looking around to include everyone in the conversation. I don't want to boss anyone around. I want to work with you, learn from you, and maybe you'll pick up a thing or two from me as well. What can an assistant possibly teach us? Asked one of the bakers, a blonde woman in her 30s. Maya smiled. How to create the best pastries with the simplest ingredients. How to be creative when you don't have luxury items. How to turn simplicity into something extraordinary. That sounds very nice, David said, clearly unconvinced. But a professional kitchen isn't the same as baking at home. True, Maya agreed. But you know what's the same? What makes good pastries truly good? Love, attention, and a little bit of soul. Soul doesn't pay the bills, someone muttered from the back. That's true too, Maya laughed. But satisfied customers do. And customers are happiest when they taste something made with care, not just with expensive ingredients. Alexander, who had been watching the whole exchange in silence, stepped forward. Everyone, he said. Maya is going to be our head pastry chef and creative director. I expect you all to treat her with the respect she deserves. Of course, Mr. Morrison, David replied, though his tone was still far from warm. Once Alexander left, Maya was alone with the team. The atmosphere was as heavy as overproofed bread. All right, folks, she said, clapping her hands. Since we'll be working together, how about we start with something simple? Can someone show me where the basic ingredients are? Basic? Asked the blonde baker. We have Belgian chocolate, Madagascar vanilla, artisan flowers. No, Maya interrupted. The basics. Eggs, flour, butter, sugar. The staff looked at each other as if she had just asked them to find a unicorn. Why would you want basic ingredients? David asked. Because, Maya said, walking toward the supply room. With the basics, you see who really knows how to bake. Meanwhile, across town, Bradley Mason was in his office, reading a headline on his tablet with the expression of someone who had just tasted something rotten. Former assistant becomes Alexander Morrison's head pastry chef at revolutionary new bakery. He slammed the tablet onto the desk so hard he nearly cracked the screen. This cannot be happening, he muttered to himself. His assistant, James, walked into the room at that moment. Mr. Mason, are you all right? That woman, Bradley said, pointing at the tablet. She's opening a bakery with Alexander Morrison. Maya Chen, James asked. I heard she's actually very talented. Bradley looked at James as if he had just claimed the earth was flat. Talented? James, she's an assistant. A fraud. And now she's going to be my direct competitor. Well, sir, technically she was always your potential competitor. Don't start with technicalities, Bradley exploded. Alexander Morrison owns the biggest bakery empire in Seattle. If he opens something new with that woman, it'll destroy me. James stayed silent, knowing better than to provoke Bradley when he was in that state. Bradley began pacing back and forth in his office, his mind racing. I can't let this happen, he murmured. Not after everything I've built. What do you intend to do? James asked cautiously. Bradley stopped pacing and looked out the window at the street below. If they want to play dirty, he said with a smile that never reached his eyes, then we'll play dirty. Mr. Mason. James, Bradley said. I want you to find out everything about this new bakery. Staff, suppliers, opening schedule, everything. What for? Bradley smiled again, this time even more unsettling. To make sure they never get to open their doors. And while Bradley plotted his revenge, Maya was across town, trying to win over a hostile kitchen with humor and eggs, unaware that her new life was about to get much more complicated. 2 weeks after Maya had started working at the bakery, Alexander showed up in the kitchen on a Thursday evening when almost everyone had already gone home. Still here? He asked, finding Maya leaning over a counter, surrounded by papers with sketches of pastries. Trying to create the perfect menu, she answered without looking up. Or at least a menu that doesn't make people think I only know how to mix basic batter. Alexander stepped closer and looked at the drawings. They were simple but creative pastries that turned ordinary ingredients into something special. "This looks incredible," he said. "Liar," Maya replied, but she smiled. "You're just being nice because I'm your head chef and you're afraid I'll lose it." "Maybe," Alexander admitted, "but it's actually really good." Maya finally looked at him. "You look tired. When was the last time you ate something that didn't come out of a business meeting?" Alexander thought for a moment. "Good question. I don't think I remember." "That's tragic," Maya said, shaking her head. "You own bakeries and you don't remember the last time you had a real pastry. That's like owning a swimming pool and forgetting how to swim." "You have a strange obsession with aquatic metaphors," Alexander observed. "And you have a strange obsession with work," Maya shot back. "Come with me." "Where?" "You'll see," she said, already grabbing her bag. "Trust me." Half an hour later, they were at Pike Place Market in downtown Seattle, a place Alexander had probably never set foot in before. "What is this?" he asked, looking around with genuine fascination. "This, my dear billionaire, is where real food happens," Maya answered, pulling him toward a crepe stand. The place was full of people, street music, and incredible aromas. Alexander looked completely out of his element, but also strangely charmed. "2 chocolate crepes, please," Maya ordered from the vendor. "And don't hold back on the Nutella." "Are you sure?" Alexander asked. "I'm not very good with sweet things this late." "Trust me," Maya said. "Or do you want me to order you a plain one?" Alexander laughed. "All right, I'll trust you." They got their crepes and sat at a plastic table next to workers, students, and families. Alexander took a cautious bite of his crepe. Then his eyes went wide. "Incredible," he murmured. "This is amazing." "I know," Maya said, taking a big bite of hers. "That's what you miss when you only go to fancy patisseries. The heart of baking is on the street." "How did you find this place?" "When you earn an assistant's salary, you learn where to find good, affordable food," she explained. "This guy here makes the best crepes in Seattle, and he doesn't even have formal training. He learned from his father." Alexander looked around, watching people laughing, talking, eating with their hands. "It's been a long time since I've seen this," he said. "Seen what?" "People just enjoying food," Alexander answered. "Not analyzing, not critiquing, not taking photos, just eating and being happy." Maya watched him for a moment. "Do you remember when baking made you happy?" Alexander stayed silent for a long time. "Sometimes," he finally said. "But it was a long time ago." "That's a shame," Maya said. "Because you have incredible talent. I saw your old recipes online. They were brilliant." "You researched me?" Maya blushed slightly. "Just a little, maybe a few hours, or maybe the whole night," she admitted. "But it was for professional reasons. I wanted to understand who I was working with." Alexander smiled. "And what did you find out?" "That you were a brilliant baker who one day just stopped creating and became a businessman," Maya said. "And that you have a very nice smile when you're not being Mr. Serious Executive." They looked at each other for a moment. The music of the market kept playing in the background. People passed by chatting, but it felt like they were in a bubble. "Maya," Alexander began. "Yes." He leaned closer to her at the little plastic table. "I wanted to tell you that." Suddenly, a flash blinded them. Then another. And another. "Got it!" someone shouted. "Alexander Morrison on a romantic date with the ex-assistant." Alexander pulled away from Maya so quickly he nearly knocked over his chair. "No," he muttered. "No, no, no." More flashes. More photographers appearing out of nowhere. "How did you find us?" Alexander asked, clearly frustrated. "Mr. Morrison," a reporter shouted. "Is it true that Miss Chen seduced you to get the position?" "What a ridiculous question," Maya said, standing up. "Of course I did. My plan was exactly that. Work as an assistant for years waiting for a billionaire to show up. Make a few crepes and he'd fall hopelessly in love with me. Genius, right?" "Maya, don't respond to them," Alexander said, grabbing her arm. "Miss Chen," another reporter shouted. "Is it true that Mr. Morrison was pressured by his family not to get involved with someone from a lower social class?" Alexander stopped walking. "Listen carefully," he said, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. "Anyone who publishes anything about this will hear from my lawyer. I'm not joking." They managed to leave the market, but the mood was completely ruined. In the car, the silence was deafening. "Alexander," Maya began. "I'm sorry," he said, not looking at her. "I didn't know they were following us." "It's all right. It wasn't your fault." "Yes, it was," Alexander interrupted. "I should have known. This always happens when I go out in public." Maya watched him drive, his jaw tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Are you sorry you took me there?" she asked quietly. Alexander didn't answer right away. "No," he finally said. "But maybe we should keep our relationship professional." Maya felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "Oh," was all she could say. The next day, the photo was everywhere in the tabloids. The main headline read, "Billionaire seduced. Ex-assistant wins over bakery tycoon in intimate date." Maya read the article with a heavy heart. According to the report, she was an opportunist who had used her feminine charms to manipulate Alexander and get a position she didn't deserve. When she arrived at the bakery, everyone looked at her strangely. "Did you see the news?" David asked with a mean smile. "I did," Maya answered, trying to stay composed. "Interesting career strategy," he commented. "David," Maya said, turning to him, "have you ever thought that maybe, just maybe, things aren't exactly the way the papers say?" "Of course not," he replied. "Newspapers never exaggerate anything." Maya took a deep breath. She was determined not to let it affect her work. But when Alexander showed up in the kitchen an hour later, pretending she didn't exist, her heart broke a little more. Across town, Alexander was in his office, talking with his press advisor, David Chen. "The article was bad," David was saying, "but it will pass. It always does." "I know," Alexander replied, but he seemed distant. "You did the right thing by keeping your distance from her," David went on. "Relationships with employees always get complicated." "She's not just an employee," Alexander said. "She's the head chef." "Even so." "David," Alexander cut him off. "I didn't pull away because I'm afraid of the press." "You didn't." Alexander looked out the window toward the bakery. "I pulled away because—" He hesitated. "Because I'm starting to care about her. Really care. And that scares me more than any newspaper article ever could." David was silent for a moment. "Is that good or bad?" "I don't know yet," Alexander answered. "I just know I can't let my feelings get in the way of her success. She deserves to succeed on her own merits." And while Alexander struggled with his feelings, Maya was in the kitchen, trying to pretend her heart wasn't breaking a little more each time he ignored her. A week after the incident at Pike Place Market, the big day finally came, the soft opening of the bakery's Sweet Roots, which Maya had insisted on naming because, as she put it, that's where good baking comes from. The event was packed. Food critics, influencers, important people from Seattle, and even a few curious locals who had managed to get invitations. Maya was nervous but tried to cover it with her usual humor. "All right, everyone," she told the kitchen staff. "It's just one night. If we're lucky, tomorrow we'll still have jobs." David rolled his eyes. "What an inspiring speech." "Thank you," Maya replied. "I practice in the mirror every day." Alexander stepped into the kitchen looking sharp in his dark suit. But Maya pretended not to notice him. Since the paparazzi incident, they had barely spoken. "How are things going here?" he asked, addressing David more than Maya. "Everything's under control," David replied. "Perfect," Alexander said, and walked out without so much as a glance at Maya. "Subtle as an elephant in a china shop," Maya muttered under her breath. The first 2 hours went flawlessly. Pastries left the kitchen like works of art. The guests seemed satisfied, and Maya finally began to relax. That's when things started to go wrong. "Table 8 is complaining," said a server, coming back from the dining room with a puzzled look. "They say the croissant tastes like soap?" Maya frowned. "Soap? That's impossible. I tasted that batch 20 minutes ago." And table 12 says they ordered the almond tart, but got a chocolate eclair, another server added. What? Maya rushed to the counter. I plated those desserts myself. There's no way this happened. More complaints began to pour in. Wrong orders, strange flavors, incorrect temperatures. It was as if the kitchen had been cursed. What on earth is going on here? Alexander stormed into the kitchen, clearly frustrated. I don't know, Maya said, frantically checking every station. Everything was perfect half an hour ago. Maybe it's nerves, David suggested, with a smile that was anything but supportive. Happens to inexperienced chefs. Maya glared at him. David, I may be a lot of things, but inexperienced under pressure isn't one of them. Have you ever worked a Friday night rush? That's like culinary warfare. She started to investigate systematically. First, she checked the ingredients. Someone had swapped salt for sugar in several recipes. This wasn't an accident, she murmured. What do you mean? Alexander asked. Look at this. Maya showed the containers. Someone deliberately switched the ingredients. And look here. She grabbed some of the orders. This one said chocolate tart, but someone changed it to lemon meringue. That's why the taste is off. Alexander looked around the kitchen, his expression dark. Who would do this? Someone who wants to see us fail, Maya answered. She decided to investigate on her own. Pretending to head to the restroom, Maya slipped out of the kitchen and began discreetly observing the staff. That's when she noticed a woman she didn't recognize. Brunette, middle-aged, wearing a kitchen uniform, but with a name tag that looked off. Maya walked over casually. Hi, she said. Are you new here? I don't remember seeing you before. The woman looked visibly nervous. Oh, yes, I'm temporary, she stammered. Just for tonight. Nice, Maya smiled. Which agency sent you? Agency. The woman hesitated. From Seattle Staffing Solutions. Maya nodded but mentally noted that no such agency existed in Seattle. And which station are you working? I'm on pastry prep. The woman answered but glanced toward the wrong side of the kitchen. Interesting, Maya said. Because pastry prep is on the other side. The woman turned pale. I need to use the restroom, she said and hurried away. Maya didn't hesitate. She followed her at a safe distance. The stranger didn't go to the bathroom. Instead, she walked out the back door of the bakery and started moving quickly down the street. Where are you rushing off to? Maya murmured, continuing to follow. The woman turned a corner and stopped next to a black car. Maya hid behind a dumpster to watch. And that's when she saw who was in the car. Bradley Mason. Did you complete it? Maya heard Bradley ask. Yes, the woman replied. I switched everything you told me to. Salt for sugar, orders mixed up, a few drops of dish soap in the glazes. Perfect, Bradley said. Sarah, you did excellent work. Maya felt anger rising like steam from a boiling kettle. Bastard, she muttered. She was about to confront them when Bradley stepped out of the car. You're certain no one suspected anything? He asked. I'm certain, Sarah replied. I acted like a temporary employee. No one questioned it. Excellent. With all this chaos, their bakery will close before it even officially opens. Maya couldn't hold back any longer. She stormed out from behind the dumpster. Bradley Mason, she shouted. Bradley and Sarah turned, both with looks of total panic. Maya, Bradley stammered. What are you doing here? Discovering you're even more pathetic than I thought, Maya answered, walking toward them. Sabotage, Bradley? Really? That's your business strategy. I don't know what you're talking about, Bradley tried to lie. Oh, you don't? Maya pointed at Sarah. So your accomplice was just doing some culinary tourism in our kitchen? What an interesting coincidence. Sarah tried to run to the car, but Maya blocked the way. Not so fast, sweetheart, Maya said. You and I need to have a chat. Sarah, leave, Bradley ordered. Nobody's going anywhere, Maya declared. You're both coming back with me to the bakery to explain to everyone what you did. Bradley laughed with disdain. And why would we do that? Maya pulled her phone from her pocket. Because I recorded everything, she said, smiling. Your whole little conversation about salt for sugar and soap in the glazes. Very nice for posting on social media. Don't you think? Bradley's expression changed completely. You wouldn't dare. Bradley, Maya said with a smile of pure satisfaction. You clearly don't know me very well. Maya held the phone up like it was a weapon. So Bradley, what's it going to be? You come back with me and explain your little sabotage operation, or I post this right here on social media. Bradley looked at the phone, then at Sarah, who seemed to be seriously considering fleeing to another country. You're bluffing, Bradley said, though his voice didn't sound very convinced. Want to bet? Maya replied, already opening the Instagram app. Imagine the headline. Famous chef sabotages competitor with dish soap. It'll go viral in 5 minutes. Maya, wait, Bradley said, holding out his hand. Let's talk like adults. Adults? Maya let out a laugh. Bradley, you just told your accomplice to put dish soap in innocent people's food. If that's adult behavior, I'd rather stay a child forever. Sarah tried once again to slip toward the car, but Maya intercepted her. Oh no, sweetheart, Maya said. You're a big part of this story. How did he convince you? Did he pay extra? Or do you just enjoy poisoning people? I just did what he told me, Sarah stammered. Of course you did, Maya said. Because following orders is always a good excuse, right? Worked out great in history. Bradley turned red with rage. Don't compare this to... To what? Maya cut him off. To sabotage? Because that's exactly what you did, Bradley. You sabotaged an event with 150 people because you're afraid of a former assistant. Afraid? Bradley exploded. Of you? Don't make me laugh. You only got where you are because you're attractive and outspoken. Alexander only made that offer because you seduced him. Maya stayed silent for a moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was dangerously calm. Oh, I see, she said. So I don't have any talent at all. Is that it? Exactly, Bradley shouted. You're a fraud. An imposter who used feminine charms to trick a rich man. Maya nodded slowly. Interesting theory, she said. How about we put it to the test? What do you mean? Maya stepped closer to Bradley, a dangerous spark in her eyes. A baking duel, she said. You and me. Live. On television. No feminine charms. No seduction. Just pure talent. Bradley laughed with disdain. Are you insane? Why would I do that? Because you're so afraid of losing that you have to sabotage the competition, Maya answered. Or because deep down, way deep down, you know I'm better than you. That's ridiculous. Then accept the challenge, Maya said. Unless you're afraid of getting beaten by an attractive loudmouth. Bradley was furious. Fine, he shouted. I accept. But when I win, you'll close down your pathetic bakery and disappear from Seattle. And when I win, Maya said, smiling, you'll close down your bakery and disappear from the culinary world forever. They stared at each other like two gunslingers in the Old West. Deal? Deal, Bradley said. Deal, Maya agreed. That's when Alexander came running around the corner. Maya, he shouted. Where have you been? The whole bakery is looking for you. He stopped when he saw Bradley and Sarah. What's going on here? He asked. Nothing much, Maya answered casually. I just found out who's been sabotaging our kitchen and challenged him to a baking duel that will decide the future of our bakeries. Alexander blinked several times. Sorry, what? That's exactly what you heard, Bradley said. Your head chef challenged me to a live baking duel. The loser closes their bakery. Alexander looked at Maya as if she had just declared she wanted to travel to Mars. Maya, have you lost your mind? Maybe, she replied. But I'm tired of people thinking I only got here because of my looks. It's time to prove I've got substance. And if you lose? I won't lose, Maya said with a confidence she didn't even know she had. Alexander stayed silent for a long moment, processing the situation. You know what? He finally said. This is a brilliant idea. Bradley and Maya looked at him, surprised. What do you mean? They both asked at the same time. Pure marketing, Alexander explained, eyes gleaming. A live baking duel between the two of you? After all this media scandal? It'll be the culinary event of the year. Maya smiled. You'll support this? Not only will I support it, I'll turn it into the biggest baking event Seattle has ever seen, Alexander said. Bradley, are you ready for this? Bradley hesitated for a moment, probably wondering if he had gotten into something bigger than he imagined. Of course I am, he said, trying to sound confident. Perfect, Alexander said. I'll call the Master Chef Arena producers tomorrow. How about 2 weeks from now? 2 weeks, Maya swallowed hard. Isn't that too little time? It's enough time for you to prepare, Alexander said. Unless you're afraid. Afraid? Maya laughed. Please, I was just worried Bradley might not be able to learn how to bake properly in 2 weeks. Bradley turned purple with rage. You'll regret this, he muttered. The only thing I'll regret, Maya replied, is not having done this sooner. 2 weeks. 14 days to prepare for the most important showdown of her life. How did a simple assistant end up in a situation like this? In the following days, Maya dedicated herself to training as if it were the Culinary Olympics. She woke up at 4 in the morning, stayed in the kitchen until midnight, testing recipes, perfecting techniques, creating new pastries. Alexander hired a nutritionist and a personal trainer to help her, but Maya was so focused she barely noticed the extra support. You need to rest, said David, who ironically had become one of her biggest supporters after discovering Bradley's sabotage. Rest is for the weak, Maya replied, whisking egg whites with the precision of a surgeon. On the 10th day of training, Maya was experimenting with a new lamination technique when suddenly everything started spinning around her. Hey guys, she said, gripping the counter. Can someone stop the floor from dancing? It was the last thing she said before collapsing. She woke up in the hospital with Alexander sitting by her bed, looking worried. How do you feel? He asked. Like I was run over by a truck full of flour, Maya replied. What happened? You fainted in the kitchen, Alexander explained. The doctor said your blood pressure is dangerously high and you're under extreme stress. At that moment, Dr. Williams entered the room. Miss Chen, he said, I need you to understand the severity of this situation. Your body is in constant fight or flight mode. If you continue like this, you could develop serious cardiac problems. Maya tried to sit up in bed. Doctor, I have a baking duel in 4 days. I can't. You won't be in any duel, the doctor interrupted. You need complete rest for at least 2 weeks. Maya looked at Alexander, panic in her eyes. I can't quit now, she whispered. Not after all this. Alexander held her hand. Your health is more important than any duel, he said. But Bradley will say I gave up out of fear. Let him talk, Alexander replied. You've already proven your worth 1,000 times. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of everything. In 4 days, she would have to face Bradley in the most important duel of her life. And now she wasn't even sure she'd be strong enough to stand. Maya spent 3 days in the hospital, and Alexander never left her side, not even to shower. He had turned the chair next to her bed into a kind of mobile office, with a laptop, papers, and an impressive collection of empty coffee cups. You don't have to stay here, Maya said for the 10th time. I'm sure you have more important things to do. Like what? Alexander asked without looking up from his computer. I don't know. Run your baking empire? Count your money? Buy a yacht? I already have a yacht, Alexander answered casually. Maya stared at him. Of course you do. Next question. How many cars do you own? Why do you want to know? Morbid curiosity, she said. I want to figure out how many years of assistant wages each one is worth. Alexander finally looked at her. Maya, you need to drop the duel. We've already talked about this, she replied, crossing her arms. I'm not quitting. The doctor said you could have heart problems if you keep pushing like this. And I said I'd rather die baking than live knowing I gave up. Maya shot back. Besides, if I die during the duel, It'll be great for marketing. Chef dies for her art. Very dramatic. Alexander shook his head. That's not funny. It's a little funny, Maya insisted. You just don't want to admit it because you're too worried to see the humor. Alexander stood up and began pacing the small room. Why is this so important to you? He asked. Why can't you just let Bradley talk to himself? Maya stayed silent for a long moment, fiddling with the edge of the sheet. Because my grandmother died without ever being recognized, she finally said. Alexander stopped pacing. What do you mean? My grandmother, Maya Chen, was the best baker I've ever known. Maya began, her voice quieter than usual. She worked in small bakeries, hotel kitchens, anywhere that would hire her. She never had a culinary degree, never had the chance to show what she could really do. Alexander sat down on the bed beside her. What happened to her? She died of a stroke when I was 20, Maya said, wiping away a stubborn tear. Right up to the end, she was planning to open a little bakery. She used to say that one day everyone would know Maya Chen could bake. And she never got the chance. Never. Maya shook her head. She died kneading dough on the night shift to pay for her medication. Before she passed, she made me promise one thing. What was it? Maya looked straight into Alexander's eyes. That I would never give up on a dream out of fear. That if I ever had a chance to show my talent, I wouldn't back down. Alexander understood. That's why you can't walk away from the duel. Exactly, Maya said. It's not just about me. It's about everyone like my grandmother. People with talent who never get the opportunity. If I give up now, I'm giving up on her too. Alexander was quiet for a moment. Your grandmother would be proud, he said at last. You think so? I'm sure of it, Alexander answered. She raised a granddaughter who doesn't back down from anything. That's a rare gift. Maya smiled for the first time in days. And what about you? She asked. Why did you stop baking? Alexander stiffened. It's a long story. I'm in a hospital, Maya said. I literally have nothing better to do than listen to long stories. Alexander sighed and leaned back in his chair. I had a bakery in Portland, he began. Small, but it was growing. It had been my dream since I was a kid. What happened? A customer had a severe allergic reaction to one of my pastries, Alexander said, his voice heavy with guilt. She ended up in the hospital. She almost died. Maya winced. Wow, but it was an accident, right? Of course it was, Alexander replied. But at the time, I blamed myself completely. I thought, if I can't bake without putting people at risk, then I shouldn't be baking at all. And that's when you became a businessman. Exactly. Safer to run bakeries than to bake in them, Alexander said. At least that's what I told myself. Maya studied him for a moment. You know that's nonsense, right? What do you mean? Alexander, accidents happen, Maya said. Do you think every baker in the world quit the first time someone had an allergic reaction? It's not the same. Yes, it is. Maya cut him off. You got scared and used that as an excuse to stop doing what you loved. Alexander looked offended. That's not what happened. Yes, it was, Maya insisted. And you know how I know? Because I did the same thing. After my grandmother died, I spent years as an assistant instead of trying to become a real baker. I was afraid of failing, of not being good enough, of disappointing her memory. And what changed? You, Maya said simply. When you gave me that opportunity, I realized that the fear of trying was worse than the fear of failing. Alexander looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Maya. Yes. You're amazing. I know, she replied with a playful smile. But it's nice to hear you say it. Alexander laughed and leaned closer. Do you always know what to say? Not always, Maya admitted. Sometimes I say nonsense, like now, when I'm nervous because you're so close and I probably look like I've spent 3 days in a hospital. You look beautiful, Alexander said softly. Liar, Maya whispered. But keep going. And then finally, after weeks of tension, misunderstandings, and missed chances, Alexander leaned in and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, tender, full of all the feelings they had been holding back. Maya felt as if she had waited her whole life for that moment. When they pulled apart, she smiled. "Took you long enough," she said. "Was it worth the wait?" Alexander asked. "Maybe," Maya replied, "but I'll need a second opinion to be sure." Alexander was about to kiss her again when a nurse walked into the room. "Sorry to interrupt," she said with a mischievous smile, "but someone's here with a legal document for Miss Chen." Maya and Alexander quickly pulled apart. "A what?" Maya asked. A man in a suit entered the room carrying a folder of documents. "Miss Maya Chen?" he asked. "That's me," Maya answered, confused. "I have a court order for you," the man said, handing her the papers. "Mr. Bradley Mason is filing an injunction to prevent you from participating in the baking duel scheduled for this week." Maya snatched the papers from his hand and began reading quickly. "What is he claiming?" she asked, growing more irritated by the second. "Physical and mental incapacity to compete, based on your recent hospitalization," the man explained. Maya looked at Alexander, then back at the papers, then at the man. "Can he do that?" "If the judge accepts the request, yes," the man replied. "The hearing is tomorrow morning." After the man left, Maya stared at the papers with a mix of anger and disbelief. "That man is a snake," she said. "A slithering, cowardly snake." "Maya!" "No," she cut him off. "Don't you dare say Maya. Maybe it's for the best. Bradley is trying to stop me from competing because he knows he'll lose, and I'm not going to let that happen." Alexander sighed. "What do you want to do?" Maya stood up from the bed with renewed determination. "I'm going to that hearing tomorrow, and I'm going to show the judge, Bradley, and everyone else that I am perfectly capable of destroying any arrogant chef who stands in my way." And as Maya prepared herself mentally for yet another battle, Alexander couldn't help but admire the incredible woman he was falling for more and more. The court hearing was faster than Maya expected. Alexander had hired the best legal team in Seattle, and when Bradley tried to argue that she was mentally unstable for agreeing to a baking duel, Maya's lawyer simply asked the judge if he thought all professional bakers should be considered insane. The judge laughed and denied the injunction. Bradley walked out of the courtroom with the sourest expression Maya had ever seen. "See you on stage, darling," she called after him. "And this time, there won't be any sabotage to save you." 3 days later, the big day finally arrived. The studio of the show Battle of the Bakers was packed. It was the most anticipated culinary event of the year, and tickets had sold out in 10 minutes. Maya was backstage, wearing a flawless chef's uniform that Alexander had ordered made just for her. "How do you feel?" he asked, appearing by her side. "Like I'm about to throw up, faint, and run to another state all at once," Maya replied. "Other than that, I'm great." Alexander smiled and held her hands. "You're going to do amazing, or I'll be completely humiliated on national television," Maya said. "But then again, that's already happened, so I know how it feels." "Maya, I'm joking," she cut him off. "Well, half joking. Honestly, I'm terrified, but I'm trying to cover it up with humor because it's my defense mechanism. Do you want me to stay here?" "No." Maya shook her head. "Go to the audience. I want to see your face when I win." "And if you lose?" Maya looked at him with a serious expression. "Then you'll have to comfort me with ice cream and bad movies for the rest of my life." Alexander laughed and kissed her forehead. "Deal." When Alexander left, Maya stayed alone with her thoughts for a few minutes. She closed her eyes and tried to feel her grandmother's presence. "Grandmother," she thought, "if you're up there, now would be a good time to give me a little help." "Miss Chen." Production assistant appeared. "It's time." Maya took a deep breath. The studio was in total frenzy. The host, Michael Roberts, was practically shouting with excitement. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the baking event of the century," he roared. "On the right side we have Bradley Mason, renowned pastry chef, owner of 3 award-winning bakeries, and winner of 5 national competitions." Bradley's supporters cheered loudly. He waved with his usual arrogance, clearly confident. And on the left, the host continued, "We have Maya Chen, the former assistant who conquered the world with 3 simple eggs and a lot of talent. Maya's supporters cheered even louder. She waved shyly, still processing the fact that half the studio was rooting for her. "The rules are simple," Michael announced. 2 hours to prepare a signature dessert that represents your essence as a baker. The judges will decide the winner, and the loser, well, you know what happens. Maya looked at Bradley on the other side of the stage. He was making that serious, concentrated face he probably practiced in the mirror. "Competitors, you have access to the finest ingredients in the world," the host went on. "And now, let the battle begin." The timer started and Bradley rushed straight to the most expensive ingredients. Imported chocolate, gold leaf, exotic fruits, premium vanilla beans. Maya stood still for a moment, watching. Then she calmly walked to the basic ingredient section. "What is she doing?" one of the commentators murmured. "Is she going for eggs again?" Maya picked simple ingredients: flour, butter, eggs, sugar, vanilla extract, fresh lemons. Things her grandmother would use. Maya Chen is clearly sticking to the same strategy that made her famous, another judge commented. But will it work against a chef like Bradley Mason? While Bradley set up a complex operation with molecular techniques and elaborate presentations, Maya began something completely different. She was making lemon souffle with vanilla cream, her grandmother's special recipe. But it wasn't just any souffle. Maya had perfected the recipe over the years, adding techniques she had learned working in professional kitchens while keeping the soul of home baking. "Interesting choice from Maya," commented the pastry judge. "She's doing something that looks simple, but look at the technique. This isn't amateur work." While Bradley ran back and forth, clearly stressed with his complex creation, Maya worked with an almost zen calm. She separated eggs with precision, whipped whites to perfect peaks, folded in ingredients with techniques that left them airy and light. 60 minutes left," shouted the host. Bradley was sweating. His station looked like a battlefield, with bowls and ingredients scattered everywhere. Maya was carefully preparing her souffle base with the precision of an artist. 30 minutes. Bradley shouted something about a chocolate tempering not being ready and started redoing part of his dessert. Maya was gently folding her souffle mixture into ramekins, each one perfect. 15 minutes. Connor looked at his creation with panic. He clearly hadn't finished everything he wanted. Maya placed her soufflés in the oven with perfect timing, then began preparing an elegant vanilla cream sauce. "Time!" Bradley looked at his dessert with disappointment. He clearly hadn't achieved his vision. Maya stepped back and smiled. Her soufflés had risen perfectly, golden and magnificent. "Let's start with Bradley Mason," the host announced. Bradley presented an impressive creation. Chocolate sculpture with gold leaf, raspberry caviar spheres, and nitrogen-frozen cream, served with edible flowers and crystallized sugar art. "Very sophisticated," one of the judges commented after tasting. "Technically impressive. Complex flavors and stunning presentation." "Now Maya Chen." Maya took a deep breath. "I made grandmother's lemon souffle with vanilla cream," she said. "It's my grandmother Li Wei Chen's recipe. She spent her whole life baking with love and never got recognition. Today she does." She presented a dish that looked elegant but homey. The souffle perfectly risen and golden, the cream silky and aromatic, garnished with delicate lemon zest and a sprig of mint. The first judge cut into the souffle and watched steam escape. He took a bite and stopped chewing. He closed his eyes, tasted it again. "This is," he began. "It's extraordinary," the second judge completed. "How did you achieve this texture? It's like eating a cloud." "It's the right balance of technique and love," Maya answered. The third judge tasted and immediately took another spoonful. Can I have more?" he asked, his professional composure slipping. The audience whispered in surprise. The 3 judges tasted Bradley's dessert again, then went back to Maya's, and then back to Maya's once more. "I've never," the first judge murmured. "In 25 years of judging competitions, I've never tasted anything like this." "It's not just flavor," said the second. "It's emotion." It's a story on a plate. Bradley was starting to turn pale. Judges, said the host, have you reached a decision? The three of them exchanged glances and nodded. We have, said the head judge. The studio went completely silent. Maya held her breath. The winner of the Battle of the Bakers is... The silence felt endless. Maya Chen. The studio exploded. Maya's supporters cheered like it was the World Cup final. She stood still for a second, trying to process what had just happened. She had won. Truly won. Bradley's face was redder than she had ever seen it, but he had to shake her hand for the cameras. Congratulations, he said through clenched teeth. Thank you, Maya replied. It was a pleasure baking against you. And when she looked at the audience and saw Alexander giving her a standing ovation, tears in his eyes and the biggest smile she had ever seen, she knew this was only the beginning of her real story. The chaos that followed Maya's victory was like a hurricane of joy. Reporters ran back and forth, photographers fired off flashes non-stop, and the production team desperately tried to keep some control of the situation. Maya was still on stage, holding the golden whisk trophy, when Bradley approached her again. This time, he didn't look angry. In fact, he looked human. Maya, he said, extending his hand. Bradley, she replied cautiously. You're not going to try to sue me again, are you? He shook his head and, for the first time since they had met, smiled genuinely. I want to apologize, he said, for what I did at your bakery, for the accusations, for everything. Maya blinked several times, as if she were seeing a mirage. Sorry, could you repeat that? She asked. I thought I just heard Bradley Mason apologizing, but maybe it was a problem with the sound system. Bradley chuckled softly. You heard me right, and I also wanted to say, you're an extraordinary baker, one of the best I've ever encountered. Maya's jaw dropped. Okay, now I'm sure I'm hallucinating, she said. Can someone check if they put something strange in the water? I'm serious, Bradley insisted. Your soufflé? It was incredible. It wasn't luck, it wasn't chance. It was pure talent. Maya studied him for a moment, trying to detect any sarcasm or trick. Are you all right? She asked. Did you hit your head when you lost? Maya, Bradley said, laughing. Can you just accept a compliment like a normal person? I don't know, she replied. I've never gotten a compliment from you. I don't know the protocol. Bradley extended his hand again. Congratulations. You deserve every second of this victory. Maya shook his hand, still a little suspicious. Thank you. And Bradley, next time you want to compete with me, how about doing it without sabotage? It'll be more fun. Deal, he said. And for the first time, Maya believed him. After Bradley left, Maya was surrounded by journalists, but her attention was fixed on only one person in the audience. Alexander was trying to reach her, pushing his way through the crowd. When he finally made it, he lifted her off the ground and spun her in the air. You did it, he shouted. I knew you would. Put me down, you crazy man. Maya laughed. You're gonna drop us. Alexander set her down but didn't let go. I'm so proud of you, he said. Thank you, Maya replied, still processing everything. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. Always, Alexander said. Maya looked around at all the commotion, the cameras, the trophy still in her hands. Alexander, she said suddenly. Yes. I need to tell you something important. What? Maya took a deep breath. I don't want to be your head chef anymore. Alexander looked confused. What do you mean? Because of what happened with the newspapers. Maya, if this is about that, that's not it. She cut him off. It's because I realized what I really want to be. And what's that? Maya smiled. I want to be a baker, a real baker. I want to be in the kitchen creating pastries, baking for people. I don't want to sit in meetings talking about profit margins and marketing strategies. Alexander looked at her for a moment. Are you sure? Absolutely, Maya answered. Management is for people like you who know how to deal with numbers and spreadsheets. I just want to bake. That's what makes me happy. Alexander stayed quiet for so long that Maya started to feel nervous. Are you mad? She asked. Mad? Alexander burst out laughing. Maya, you just gave me the perfect answer. What do you mean? That's when Alexander did something completely unexpected. He got down on one knee right there, in the middle of the stage in front of hundreds of people and television cameras. Alexander, what are you doing? Maya asked, mortified. Get up. Everyone's watching. Let them watch, Alexander said, smiling. Maya Chen, will you be my baker? You don't need to kneel to offer me a job, Maya said, trying to pull him up. Don't you think that's a little too dramatic? I'm not finished, Alexander said, holding her hands. Maya Chen, will you be my baker and also my girlfriend? Maya stopped trying to lift him. What? She asked, her voice a little shaky. You heard me, Alexander said. I'm asking you to be my baker and my girlfriend. Both. At the same time. Maya looked around. Every camera was focused on them. The entire audience had gone silent. Even the reporters had stopped talking. Alexander, she whispered, are you out of your mind? You're asking me out on national television. I am, he answered calmly. Why? Because I'm in love with you, Alexander said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. And because I'm tired of pretending I'm not. Maya felt her knees go weak. You're what? In love, Alexander repeated. In love? Do you want me to spell it out? Don't be sarcastic with me when I'm in shock, Maya protested. So what's the answer? Alexander asked. Maya looked at him, kneeling on the floor with that smile that made her heart race. To which question? She asked. You asked too. To both. Maya went silent for what felt like an eternity. Are you sure? She finally asked. Because I should warn you, I'm stubborn. I talk too much. I make jokes at the wrong time. And my idea of fancy clothing is a clean apron. Perfect, Alexander said. And I can be a little dramatic sometimes. A little? Alexander laughed. Okay, very dramatic, Maya admitted. And? Maya looked around once more at all the people waiting for her answer. And? Yes, she finally said. Yes to what? To everything, Maya answered, pulling him up. To being your baker, your girlfriend, and whatever other crazy thing you come up with. Alexander stood and kissed her right there, in front of everyone. The audience exploded in applause and cheers. The cameras caught everything. And Maya, in the middle of all that chaos, realized she was finally exactly where she wanted to be. When they pulled apart, she looked at Alexander with a playful smile. But just to be clear, she said, if you think you're going to give me orders in the kitchen just because we're dating, you're very mistaken. Wouldn't dream of it, Alexander replied. Good, Maya said. Because I run the kitchen. You can run the rest, but the kitchen is mine. Deal. And another thing, Maya continued. No giving me flowers every week. I prefer special ingredients. Noted. And if you try to impress me with fancy restaurants, I'll drag you out for street food. I'm counting on it, Alexander said, laughing. And while the studio was still celebrating around them, Maya realized she had found not only the love of her life, but also her true place in the world. 6 months after the duel that had changed her life, Maya was in the kitchen of Sweet Roots, testing a new recipe, when Alexander showed up with a strange look on his face. Maya, he said, how about we go out today? Go out? She asked, without looking up from the pastry she was perfecting. Alexander, it's Saturday. Saturday is our busiest day. You know that. David can handle things for a few hours, Alexander insisted. Maya finally looked at him. Are you okay? You look nervous. Like, more nervous than when that Food Network critic came to review us. I'm fine, Alexander lied shamelessly. I just want to spend some time with my girlfriend outside the kitchen. Suspicious, Maya murmured. But fine. Where are we going? Surprise, Alexander answered. An hour later, they were at Alki Beach with a picnic basket that Alexander had mysteriously arranged. Okay. Confess, Maya said, sitting down on the checkered blanket. You don't do picnics. You barely know what a picnic is. Last week you asked if sandwiches needed to be served on china. Maybe I'm becoming more romantic, Alexander answered nervously. Or maybe you're up to something, Maya shot back. Your eyes are doing that weird thing. What weird thing? That thing when you're hiding something. Like when you bought that $15,000 stand mixer and tried to convince me it just appeared in the kitchen. Alexander laughed, but Maya noticed he kept fidgeting with his pocket. Alexander, she said suddenly, is there something in your pocket? No, he answered a little too quickly. Liar, Maya said. What is it? If it's another expensive kitchen gadget, I swear. Alexander knelt down on the sand. Maya stopped talking. Alexander, what are you doing? He pulled a small velvet box out of his pocket. Maya Chen, he said, his voice trembling slightly. Will you marry me? Maya stared at the box as if it were some alien object. That's a ring, she said. It's a ring, Alexander confirmed. A wedding ring. An engagement ring, technically. Maya kept staring at the box. Maya? Alexander asked, worried. Can you say something? You're asking me to marry you, Maya said, as if she were processing very complex information. I am. On a beach. I am. Maya finally looked at him. Why not in the kitchen? She asked. I would have preferred the kitchen. That's where we met. Where it all started. Alexander laughed. Because you would have gotten distracted with some recipe and forgotten to answer. True, Maya admitted. Yesterday I forgot you were talking to me because I was thinking about a new croissant variation. So? Alexander asked. What's the answer? Maya looked at him, kneeling in the sand, holding that little box. Yes, she said. Of course yes, you silly man. Did you think I would say no? Alexander smiled with relief and slipped the ring on her finger. It was simple and elegant, exactly her style. It's perfect, Maya said, admiring it. But just to be clear, if you think marriage is going to make me bake less or complain less about your crazy ideas, you're very mistaken. Wouldn't dream of it, Alexander replied, kissing her. You're very mistaken, Maya said. Wouldn't dream of it, Alexander replied, kissing her. A year later, Sweet Roots was on the list of the top 10 bakeries in Seattle. Maya had become a small celebrity, appearing on baking shows and in magazines. Women from all over the country wrote to her, sharing how her story had inspired them to follow their own dreams. It was a Thursday evening and the bakery was packed for a special event. Maya was serving the dessert that had changed her life, the famous lemon soufflé. Ladies and gentlemen, she said to the guests, this dessert represents something very simple, that it doesn't matter where you come from or what your starting point is. What matters is what you do with what you have. The audience applauded, and Maya smiled, seeing Alexander proud in the front row. And now, she continued, I have an announcement to make. Alexander and I are getting married. Right here, in the bakery, next week. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. A week later, Sweet Roots was decorated with simple flowers and warm lights. All the staff were there, dressed in their best uniforms. David, who had become one of Maya's biggest supporters, was officiating the ceremony. Apparently, he had a license no one knew about. Maya looked beautiful in a simple cream-colored dress, holding a bouquet made of herbs from the bakery's garden. Are you sure you want to get married in the kitchen? The makeup artist asked. Absolutely, Maya replied. It's where I fell in love with him. Well, technically, it's where he tasted my baking and fell in love with me, but the result's the same. When it was time for the ceremony, Maya walked through the bakery floor to the kitchen, where Alexander was waiting by the main oven. Nice choice of place, he said, smiling. Thought you'd like it, Maya answered. David began the ceremony in his own style. We're gathered here because these two crazy people fell in love in a kitchen and decided they wanted to stay together forever, he said. And as a witness to all this romance full of flour and sugar debates, I can say they're perfect for each other. When it was time for the vows, Maya went first. Alexander, she said, you gave me the chance no one else would. You believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself. And more importantly, You let me run the kitchen without complaining. Everyone laughed. I promise to bake for you for the rest of my life. Even when you ask for fancy pastries I don't know how to make. I promise to love you even when you buy expensive equipment without asking me. And I promise to always remind you that at the end of the day, the best food is made with love. Alexander was clearly emotional when it was his turn. Maya, he said, you taught me that baking isn't about technique or expensive ingredients. It's about putting a piece of your soul into every creation. You made me remember why I fell in love with baking. And more importantly, you made me fall in love with you. He paused to wipe his eyes. I promise to always support your dreams, even the wildest ones. I promise never to question your recipes, even when they involve strange ingredients. And I promise to always remember that you're the baker and I'm just the lucky guy who won your heart. The rings, David announced. They exchanged simple wedding bands made by the same jeweler who had crafted the engagement ring. By the power vested in me by the state of Washington and the internet, David said with a smile, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the baker. Alexander kissed Maya right there in the middle of the kitchen, surrounded by ovens, mixing bowls, and all the friends who had become family. When they finally pulled apart, Maya looked around at the bakery full of happy people, the staff applauding, and Alexander smiling by her side. You know, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. To think it all started with eggs and a crazy competition and ended with a wedding in a kitchen. It's not over yet, Alexander said with that playful smile she loved. Now the real adventure begins, Maya said. And as everyone laughed and celebrated, Maya knew she was right. This was just another recipe in her life. A pinch of craziness, a generous dose of love, and enough eggs to fuel all the dreams still to come. What did you think of Maya and Alexander's story? Leave your opinion in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give it? Subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you don't miss any of our stories. And take a moment to watch more touching stories right here on the final screen.